What's up, guys? Connor for you here with Trinity Kicking. You are watching Between the Uprights, episode 4, I believe now. We have an awesome one for you tonight. Tonight, we're talking about nervousness, pre-game jitters, night before the game preparation. We're going to talk about some recruiting, and most importantly, as always, we're going to get into some technique stuff. We're also going to ask you guys questions on what it is that you guys are superstitious about. So, DJ, spin it. Let's get this show rolling.
What we do here is go back.
Are you ready to have fun? If it's not fun, what are you doing it for?
Awesome. Well, the big thing is I really want this to be more of an engaging thing with you guys. Everybody's very, very different, but tonight we're going to go over all the stuff we need to do kind of before the game. So we are done with practices. Your confidence is basically where it's going to be on game day. You don't get any more practices. I mean, obviously you get your warm-up, but we all know that that's just kind of a really, really fine-tuning thing. So I really want to get your guys' input on a lot of this. There's going to be a lot of guys that may be struggling. There's other guys who are probably going into this week super confident after hitting a game-winning field goal last night. So make sure we're all kind of helping each other out. If you got questions, please shoot them in now. I know we have some on our messages and on our past posts, so we'll get to all those. You got anything for me?
Yeah, and also just you know, letting everybody who's coming in know, it's not even about like, if you've got a question, ask a question, but maybe there's someone out there who's got a question who hasn't asked it, and you've got some good tips, pointers, something you do, something that works for you. Now's the time to share it with your fellow kickers. All right, Drew Sink 22 says, what do you do for being nervous?
What do you do for being nervous? Okay, so this is what the off season is for, right? Busting your tail until you go into the season confident. But we all have games where our confidence kind of drops. So what you need to do is you need to simplify your kicking, punting, or snapping as much as you possibly can. So make sure you're not missing because of dumb mistakes like picking your head up to look at the ball, or maybe just trying to close your eyes right at contact, or whatever the case is. Limit those mistakes. If you have a major flaw in your technique, you're not going to fix it overnight, so accept that. Your goal is not to go out and hit 55-yard punts or make sure that you're blasting every field goal, to the scoreboard. Your goal is to get the job done so that you can make it to next week and fix whatever the flaw is. So limit everything. Make sure your follow through is there. Make sure your follow through is perfect. If you follow through well, you can save a lot of really bad hits. You make sure the ball goes straight. That goes for punting or kicking. And then obviously, before you go out there, make sure you say, keep my head down. Literally say it out loud. So not only are you saying it and your brain, grasps the idea that you're saying it, but you're then hearing it through your ears, and you're now kind of hearing it twice. You're saying it and hearing it at the same time. Your brain is bound to just force you to keep your head down. So say, keep your head down before you go and kick. I promise you it will help, and you will get through this week just fine. Be proud of yourself. You've worked for this. You've earned it. Now's the time to have fun. Be confident, buddy. What you got for me?
All right. Colin G. Cox 10 says in a couple of different messages here, so I'm going to go ahead and read all of his together. It says, how do I get consistent on my field goals? I'm always missing wide right. Is it my plant foot?
Everything really comes down to the plant foot. So the big thing is, if you see a picture of yourself kicking right at contact, and I challenge all of you kickers to do this, who aren't Trinity guys, who have learned our technique. Right at contact, your knee is actually still slightly bent. What we train here is our guys to lock out their leg before, during, and after contact so that your leg is completely flat. You'll be more consistent the flatter something is. That's just science. So if you haven't quite mastered that, what you can do is you can widen out your plant. If you have a really wide plant, it forces your leg to be perfectly straight at contact. So your body is not going to let, or your brain rather, is not going to let your foot miss the football. So it tries to bend it or pop that toe up to adjust to where the ball is. Okay, so that's why a lot of the times our toe is popped up and our knee has been in contact. We end up looking like we're soccer passing it through. If we're really wide, it forces that leg to point, forces that ankle to point, makes it flat. So just widen out that plant, buddy. Keep your head down, you'll be fine.
All right, we've got some others kind of chiming in with what it might be too. We've got Eli.Gemin says
Awesome.
could be leaving your hips open.
Yeah, and that kind of goes right with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if we're jamming ourselves, it forces us to crunch into our kick, bend our knee, and a lot of times, guess where our hips are going to be? They're going to stay to the right. But since we're in between questions right now, let me make sure that you guys realize we are going to start putting these videos up onto YouTube, so check out our channel, Trinity Kicking. We're going to do some editing. This thing should be posted in the next couple of days, as is all our future live videos. So we're super, super excited to hear that. So the more you guys ask questions, the more you get your Instagram names popped out. And when we make it big time, we got 500,000 views. Guess who people are going to be blasting up on your Instagram? Everyone in the world.
All right.
Insta-famous.
Levi K. Holly says, what's the best way to fix janky kickoff steps?
Janky kickoff steps, take less steps, right? You look at these guys in the NFL now, right? Nobody's taking a 10-yard approach like they used to be. Half of them are just taking field goal steps and blasting it 20 yards out of the back of the end zone. The fewer steps you can take, the more consistent you're going to be, the more compact you're going to be, the more power you're going to have. The bigger your stride, the more you're running and jumping into the ball, basically the more momentum you have, the weaker your kick's going to be. So limit those steps. I would take your field goal steps twice and just approach it from there, starting with walking. You don't need to be at a full pace run when you make contact with this ball. Same thing in field goals. Make sure you're wide, make sure your follow through is great, and just explode. Don't be afraid of missing a kickoff.
All right, Eli.Gemin says, how do you reset after a bad kick during a game? Great question.
Man, that is a great question. That's a tough question, right? Because everybody kind of has an answer until you're put in that position, right? You miss a big time kick, maybe it's late in the game, and the next thing you know, you have another chance you didn't expect to get. That's really, really tough to bounce back. What you have to do is you have to break the kick down into a science. The more scientific you can make kicking, the less emotion is involved with it, right? So the big thing that we have to do with this is we have to make sure that we are grinding through scientifically with our brain. So make sure that we break down the kick after we've missed it. Obviously, you got to go hit a kickoff, but then go and say, okay, what caused my issue? My ball went right. The first thing, did I pick my head up? Okay, no, I didn't pick my head up. The ball went right. That means my plant foot must have been way too close and my hips were open, my knee was bent. I can do exactly what Coach Connor said. The biggest thing you have to guard against is doing the exact same thing again, right? So make an adjustment. Don't just say, oh, I'll figure it out once I get out there. Fix it in your brain first, right? Most of you guys haven't kicked in the net. Go out and kick in the net. This doesn't work for punters. Punters don't kick in the net. That's a different topic, though. Go with a wide plant. Again, the wider your plant, the more straight your leg. The straighter your leg, the more you can follow through. The better you follow through, chances are your ball is going to follow it, okay? So wide plant, follow through.
All right. Richard_McCullum says, what are some good drills to do when transitioning from kicking off of a 1-inch block to kicking off of the ground?
Yeah, so I'm going to hold off on this question, right? We're in the middle of our season. Some of you guys are coming to the end of it. There's no adjustments we need to make right now. There's no switching from a 1-inch to the ground because some guy said, hey, you should kick off the ground this game. And, you know, why would you change anything at this point? It's hard enough to kick a football as it is. There's no reason we need to try and adjust and change stuff. If anything, the tee is an advantage. Why would you give up an advantage? All right? No college coach is going to care that, oh, well, this guy kicked off the ground, this guy kicked off a 1-inch block, but the guy who kicked off the ground missed 2 kicks, but the guy who kicked off the block went 100% for the season. Nobody's going to pick the guy who missed over the guy who went 100% just because of a block. Use every advantage that you have in the high school, right? Nobody's going to back up their kickoff spot to the 35 just because that's what they do in college. They're going to keep kicking from the 40 and kicking touchbacks, right? Don't change anything like that now. But I have a question for you guys. So let me shoot a question out to you, all right? It's the night before a game. Everybody, especially kickers and punters, we have a ton of rituals we do before the game. So I kind of want to hear what yours are. For me, I always had to put on my left sock before my right, and then I had to put my right cleat on before my left. All right. So everybody's a little superstitious when it comes to stuff like that.
Weirdo.
Yeah, right. We all know that all those kickers are like that. Maybe it's you put your favorite Bible verse on your arm or on your wrist tape, or you get your wrist taped as a kicker. So I want to hear from you guys exactly what that is, and hopefully, Casey will read some of those to me just because I'd love to hear stuff like that. But constantly keep that rolling into the feed as well.
All right, well, as those come in, Max Dresner says, I'm going to a different high school next year. Does this make my recruiting process more complicated?
No, if anything, it might actually help, right? If hopefully your coach likes you at your current school, and hopefully your new coach will like you as well, and now you'll have two coaches that can vouch for you and give you good feedback to college coaches when they ask. So when you put your contact information out to your, to these coaches, maybe list both coaches' names and numbers out there, so that those college guys can ask about your character, your grades, kind of the kind of person that you were on the football team. Since we're on the topic of recruiting, you guys have got to make sure, we talked about it in our last video, you guys have got to make sure you are grinding getting your name out there. I don't care what grade you're in. If you were playing varsity, you need to be sending your film, your stats, your measurements, that's your height, your weight, right, your grades, your test scores, in an email to every single country or every single coach in the country, and then pick up the phone and call every single coach in the country. And when you ask for the special teams coordinator, or maybe he's not available, then you ask for the recruiting coordinator. You say, my name is so-and-so, these are my stats, this is that. I want to be at your school. I'd like to set up a visit. And when they ask you, well, can you please send us this information? Answer should be, I already did. It's been in your inbox for about 2 hours. Okay? Get out and start recruiting. Get your name out there. Kicking camps that promise you they're going to get your name out aren't working hard enough for you. You have to do it on your own. All right, what you got for me, Casey?
All right, I'm going to throw in a couple of these really odd rituals that are coming in. Then we're going to jump back to a couple of questions, too. 21... Oh, man, I don't want to say his name wrong because I should know this name. I believe it's Bergeron. I think it's a Louisiana name. I know it is. That Bourgeois name,
It's bourgeois.
Oh, there's Lord. A different spelling for all of them. Apparently,
does it look like Bourgeois?
Yeah. Apparently, he shaves his arms, though.
Before every game?
I don't know. It just says he shaves his arms.
You know what that tells me? That tells me that he hit a kickoff and somebody was running past him and he dove and just missed the guy. So he figured he'd be that fraction of a second faster if he shaved that hair off like Michael Phelps.
Wyatt _Stinson17 says he listens to Tony Keith.
Toby Keith or Tony Keith?
That's what Tony it says. Maybe he means Toby Keith?
Toby has a brother named Tony, and he's actually a hip-hop mogul, so. Google it.
All right, let's jump back to a question just real quick. Since you were touching on recruiting, VDIII says, can you be recruited for just field goals? Even though he gets an answer, yes, from Drew's Inc. 22. What do you have to say about it, Coach?
Yeah, man, there's actually a lot of colleges who are going this route, and a lot of the NFL, such as the New Orleans Saints, for instance, right? The New Orleans Saints, they have a kicker on their team that just does field goals, and then the punter, who's probably one of the best in the world and in the league, Thomas Morstead, handles kickoffs. So you're going to find schools that don't really necessarily need a guy who's doing big kickoffs, right? It definitely limits you, right? So now you have to find a school that doesn't need someone to do big kickoffs. But man, if you're kicking field goals, let's say your longest field goal is 50 yards or 55 yards, right? By the time we graduate, a lot of you guys are around that level, right? When you're kicking from the 35, right, you go 50 yards, right? 45, 50, other 45, 35, 25, 15. So a 50-yard kick puts it at the 15. 55-yard kick puts it at the 10. When you can make a 55-yard field goal, it's still 10 feet in the air, so it's actually going further past that. It's probably going to land around the 6-yard line, right? A lot of college coaches don't necessarily need you to kick it to the back of the end zone every single time. Place it into a corner, right? So it's not always about trying to, get this monster thing. Take your field goal steps until you can master your kickoff steps in the off season, all right?
All right, we've got another ritual from Tyler_Logan_. Really cool, actually. He says he tapes his knee, and sometimes he writes down the names of some of his boys who died out of respect towards them. And then he says, depending on if he wears 3/4 Nike Pros over it or not.
Well, that's pretty dope, man. I like that. But he's taping his knee?
Hey, a ritual is a ritual. But let's hear what some of you other guys out there have to say. And let's go back to another question. Randall Miller _1 says, how do you fix your body opening up and hooking to the left?
Your follow through, right? So a lot of the times we're just crunching into our kick. When we crunch into our kick, if you bend forward, and I challenge all you guys again, try this at home, try this right now. If you bend forward even slightly and you try and kick your leg up, your body will prevent your leg from coming any higher than your hip. Now, when we get in a game situation, we have all that adrenaline, we're swinging our leg hard, our leg has to go somewhere. Something has to give. So obviously our entire torso is not going to give. So our leg has to go somewhere. So usually the most comfortable thing it does is it goes across our body. That's where we get a heavy crossover, and it slams our hips shut because our hips are going to go where our feet do, right? So make sure that you aren't crunching into your kick. Lean away from your ball if you have to. This will open up your body. Trust me, you're not going to fall over to opening your body. Your follow through will keep you back upright. If you watch all these big time kickers, they're all leaning away from the ball at contact, and as they make contact, their body snaps straight up. It happens so quickly that it just looks like you're kicking standing straight up, all right?
All right, well, now we know why Tyler_Logan_ tapes his knee. He says he has knee problems. That's why he tapes them. But he also wants to send mad respect to your company. So,
awesome.
There you go,
there
Coach.
You go.
All right, Zarek_913 says, how often do you do these live streams?
Yeah, man, so we've been trying to do a little bit more and more every single time. Excuse me, I brought my dog to the office today. So we try and do them more and more. We're trying to get them to be weekly. Right now they're about bi-weekly. So hopefully we're going to keep these things rolling. Just make sure if you miss any of these Insta Live videos, they're going to be up for 24 hours. And then we're going to throw them onto YouTube on our YouTube page at Trinity Kicking. So check them all out there. Also, we got some pretty awesome videos. If you want to maybe be featured on our YouTube video, go ahead and send us your film of the season. Make sure it looks cool. I'm not just going to throw somebody's huddle up there. Edit it, make it look cool, send it over to us. We'd love to show you guys.
All right, for those of you who are just joining in, let's hear some of your pre-game, day before game, right before game rituals. What have you got going on? I know all you kickers are weirdos.
Yeah, so everybody's a little different. I know a lot of you guys like to sit in your locker room and you're on your phone. Are you texting girls? Are you texting mom? Are you asking dad for help? Are you just scrolling aimlessly through Instagram? Are you looking at Bible verses? I want to hear what it is you guys are doing before the game that either calms you down or fires you up. What kind of music are you listening to? You listening to Kevin Gates? You listening to, what do you say, Keith? Tony Keith? Instead of Toby Keith's little brother?
Tony Keith. All right, Caden.Manos says, how do you deal with negativity?
Negativity. So, Caden, shoot me back exactly where that negativity is coming from, because there's a lot of negativity that we face. Is it some of your teammates? Is it maybe the backup kicker who's just trying to throw you off his game, hoping he can get in? Coaches, parents, girlfriends?
He says he's having trouble with competition.
Competition, yeah, so that's tough, man. As a kicker, when you're always looking over your back, your goal has got to be perfect. Your goal is not to have the strongest leg. It's not to blast every extra point to the next stadium, right? Your goal is to just not miss. You need to get so good that you're confident every time you step up to the ball, right? You know your competition's gonna miss. Kickers miss, it's what we do, it's gonna happen. But if you don't miss, then next thing you know, you're the best kicker in the country. Just don't miss. It's literally that simple. Don't overcomplicate stuff. Don't worry about your competition, because if you're out there, they're not, right? Good luck, man.
Yeah, Randall Miller _1 is chiming in and telling Caden, ignore it and know you've prepared yourself for any situation.
That's exactly it. I know it's hard to say, oh, just ignore it, forget that it's there. But we know it's there, but you need to lose sight of that and put your focus on you. Put your focus on your technique and all the hard work that you put together for this season. All those long hours on the field where you were out there kicking and he wasn't. If he would have been out there kicking and you weren't, then he deserves it. But that doesn't sound like it's the case, man. So be confident in yourself. No worries.
All right, Coach. Well, maybe some of these weird rituals are shy and coming out because they're embarrassed. Let's hear some of yours. Why don't you share those odd kicker rituals, punter rituals that you had high school, college?
Oh man.
And maybe how they changed from high school to college.
Yeah, so a lot of things changed between high school and college. I told you high school was pretty easy. I just kind of put my left sock on for my right. We talked about that. Right cleat for the left one. I always like to get into the Bible. I used to read a lot of different verses that really, really helped calm me down. Made me realize kind of that this isn't the only thing, right? Sports isn't the only thing. This game isn't the only thing. And it gave me power in that. So that's what I like to do in high school. I did carry that over to college. But one thing that definitely changed, I used to take a shower before every game. So a lot of times in college, we're traveling. We're in these nice hotels. I would take like a 35-minute shower in the hotel. We'd get to the locker room. I would then take another shower. Something about that hot water. We always do our best thinking in the shower, right? So it really helped me kind of.
Singing?
I did sing a lot of times. I used to sing "It's Raining Men." I'm just kidding. But what we would do is I would take a shower. I'd get real into my mental side of everything, really focusing on all the technique. And then also that warm hot water would help me loosen up my muscles, right? So you get real loose when you kind of warm up those muscles, made warm up go really easy. The other thing is I like to do a lot of stretching. Once we finally do get our pads on, I know a lot of you guys have done the hurdle drills where you step over a hurdle and duck down into one and squat under the next one and step over the next hurdle, do high kicks, stuff like that over hurdles. I know a lot of you guys do that in the off season. That always helped me doing that right before a game as well. So.
All right, well, these sound like your coach answers. What about your college kid answers? About when you were in school, what was that weird thing that you did?
Man, I didn't really do too many weird stuff. I definitely listened to really off music, so I never got into that really, rah-rah gangster rap when I'm getting, pumped up for a game. While everybody else is screaming and yelling and getting, ready to kill someone, you're a kicker. You got to be relaxed. So I listened to a lot of really soft tunes, Amarillo by Morning, a lot of really slower paced songs that would help calm me down. Not a lot of Riri or Gates or 21 Savage, I think, is who you guys are listening to now, Migos and stuff. That wouldn't have been me. more of the old school Drake, right? Getting your feels.
All right.
What else you got for me, Casey?
Wyatt _Stinson17 says, why do I perform so much better in games than in practice?
Oh, it's the chemicals in your body, man. So wherever you are in your technique, wherever you are in your distance and power, it gets amplified when you get to that game situation, right? The game day doesn't feel the same as practice. It's that adrenaline that shoots into your body, right? You see these videos of these moms picking up buses off of their infant babies and stuff like that. It's the same chemical that's doing that, other than, I guess, a miracle. But that same chemical that's pumping through your veins is the same thing that happens when it's that fight or flight moment in game situations, right? So you're going to gain 7-8 yards when you go on game day. So that's why your confidence should always be at an all-time high on game day. You should be way more confident on game day than kicking in front of your team at practice, kicking extra points, right? That adrenaline helps tremendously. So that's where you're getting that added little bonus at. Have faith in that. Feel good about it. Adrenaline.
All right. Well, Nathan Holiday _88 says Migos are the best.
Oh, man.
Migos.
Somebody at that man and show him your favorite artist, because the Migos, man, come on, guys. Y'all are better than that.
Hey, I mean, didn't you listen to one song before every game religiously?
Yeah, I listened to a couple of them, man, but that was Kevin Gates, man. Kevin Gates goes way harder than the Migos, and I'm not even gonna get into that argument right now, because, man, these young guys, they don't know what music is. Sound like an old man, huh?
Yeah, well, I mean, you kind of are at this point, Coach.
Awesome. So, if you guys have any other rituals, if any other questions are popping up, if you guys are nervous about tomorrow night, or you're worried about what you should be dreaming about, right? So let's talk about tonight instead of talking about right before the game. You guys are about to go to sleep. You guys are about to get that good 8 hours before your game. Make sure you guys are focusing on technique, going through mental rips. Don't just close your eyes and start thinking about your girlfriend or thinking about whatever test you have tomorrow. Start thinking about your technique. See yourself making good field goals. See that ball blast off your foot and go 50 yards on a punt and put it on the sideline. All right? Watch the returners not catch it. Okay? Visualize, and it will happen. What you got for me, Casey?
All right, Caden.Manos coming back. How many times a week should I run stadiums to increase my leg speed?
I mean, as many as you think you can handle, right? So if you're a JV guy, you should be running them every day, right? If you're a varsity guy, I would run them maybe Monday heavy. Maybe you can get out there on a Sunday too. I probably wouldn't run them Tuesday, but if you want to do a couple Tuesday, that's fine. Definitely nothing Wednesday, definitely nothing Thursday. If you're a college guy, absolutely, you already know absolutely nothing Friday. So run them once or twice. Push yourself. Make it hard. It shouldn't be easy. Pick a number that you think is going to be difficult, and then you don't waver from that number. You cannot do less. If you say, I'm going to run 12 stadiums, you're doing 12 stadiums, and then do one more. But you don't get to say, man, I've done 8, and I'm way more out of breath than I thought it was going to be. Stop, take a break, then run them again. I would change it up too, so I wouldn't just say, okay, after your workout, start running stadiums, right? Go kick 20 kicks, run the stadium. Kick 10 kicks, run 2 stadiums, right? Mix it in there so you're not just steady running and running and running. All right, awesome. So let's shut this thing down. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. You got one more, Casey?
Yeah, let's hold up. They got another one coming in. Zarek _913 says, how can I make a highlight film in Huddle if I don't get many, if any, chances to get field goals? My team is 0-27 in the last 3 years. Should I send my PATs?
Yeah, so if all you have is game PATs, then that's what you send. If you got kickoffs, send your kickoff. If you got some punts, do your punts, onside, sky kicks, send everything you have. No coach is going to want to watch you kick 20 PATs, so don't put every PAT on the season. Pick the ones that got great height, maybe ones where people are rushing heavy and you get it off perfectly fine, you don't look nervous. I would send those. Then go onto a marked field, so a turf field if there is one, and then go and make sure that you are filming yourself on your own. So just kicking off the ground, kicking off a tee, whatever it is that you do, show yourself doing kickoffs and film it. Have somebody be in the stands and film from a wide angle and film kind of a where you are now type approach to it. All right. So make sure that you make that film as well. I know when I left high school, I actually got recruited by most of my schools by my game film, but there were 2 other schools in the school I ultimately went to that actually recruited me on a Where I Am Now film. So I went on the spring, filmed myself kicking, punting, and kicking off on just a marked field on a perfect day. There was no live game or anything, and I had a lot of guys recruit me that way. So it doesn't always have to be just game film. They just prefer game film. All right, you got anything else for me, Casey?
Yeah, Levi K. Holly says, hey, Coach, our physical trainer has recommended we do not kick 100 balls a day multiple times.
Yeah, so of course they don't, right? People don't understand kickers, so a lot of these kickers have been trained to be lazy, right? Why do you only kick, or did you used to kick only 30 or 40 footballs? Because everybody told you to. Everybody likes to compare kickers to pitchers, right? The reason pitchers are on a pitch cow is because of this tendon in their elbow. That little flicking that puts a strain on tendons. is very, very easily injured. So with kicking, when you learn to kick with your entire body, your quads, your hamstring, those are giant muscles. So they shouldn't get tired. It's the same reason why 300-pound linemen could run into each other for 3 hours and they're ready to go the next day. You're using your whole body. You're not using these tiny little tendons. So that is a big misconception. Now, obviously, if your trainer tells you one thing, you kind of have to listen to them.
Well, maybe his situation is a little different, which you can relate to and maybe help out those too. He just came in and said that last year, I believe he means I partially tore my hip flexor, and Scotty almost did the same thing freshman year. So he's not optimistic about it. Then he just came in and said Scotty completely tore his.
Yeah, so look, here's the thing, man. When you guys tore your hip flexors, what was your work ethic like? Now, I'm not here to judge anyone, but the odds were if you're only kicking 20 balls a day, 30 balls a day, you get into the off season, you're kicking once every 2 weeks, or soccer doesn't count. It's different muscle groups. But if you're not really busting your tail and your body's not used to kicking 100 balls, you can't just come out there and start kicking 100 balls and expect your hips and your stuff to hold up, right? It's like being a boxer, right? Maybe you've never hit a punching bag. You're not going to show up the next day and hit a punching bag full with nothing but right hooks 500 times and not expect to get injured or be super sore, all right? Which leads to injury. So you have to be smart about it, all right? Make sure you take ice baths, man. That's a great way to heal up pretty quick, get that kind of damaged muscle out of there. Make sure you're staying hydrated. That's another really good way. But you have to basically condition yourself exactly like a marathon runner, right? You're not just going to get out there and run 23 miles. Get used to running and run every single day and build your body up and build those muscle groups up, right? So your hip flexor, you really don't use that. You don't torque it, those small muscles in that hip, the way you do when you kick a field goal. Nothing you do, making cuts, running, jumping, doing box jumps, Olympic lifting, that doesn't get your hips or your knees ready for that type of torque on your body. So the only way to do it is slowly building yourself up kicking-wise, and that's what the off-season's for. So
he says that he was doing about 75 a day, 6 days a week. Nathan Holiday _88 comes in and tells him to hit the gym, get stronger, and you won't have that problem. Also, stretch all the time.
Well, those are all really great things. Building up your body. It sounds like maybe you were kicking too much, right? So there is that chance that you did kick too much. You have to be able to listen to your body. You have to know when you're sore and it's dangerously sore, and when you're risking an injury or when your leg's just a little tired. There's a very big difference. The other thing with your hips, especially if you're doing a lot of core work, or like Nathan said, you have got to stay flexible and stretch it. If your hamstrings get tight, it kind of makes those glutes tight. If your lower back is tight, it makes those glutes tight. It goes into your hamstring. It spreads into your hip flexor. So the reason why we injure our hips, and this is going to be a little bit scientific, the reason why we injure our hips as kickers is because those tendons and muscles start swelling up in those hips. And when they start getting bigger, because that's what swollen means, right? They'll sometimes get caught on another tendon. And when it gets caught and your leg's pulling, next thing you know, it snaps back into place. And when that tendon snaps back into place, it damages the lower muscles and a lot of time results in tears or rips. And that's how we end up hurting ourselves. So it's most of the time, tightness in your lower back or your hamstrings that leads to injuries in your hips. All right? So make sure you're stretching.
Kind of an expert in that one, huh, Coach?
Yeah, we've all definitely made that injury. That is not a fun one to have.
All right, Caden.Manos says, I believe he means strained, but he says I stained my left leg, and it hurts to stretch. So should he stretch?
That's something you got to talk to a doctor about, man. If you have a torn muscle, which that's what a strain is, right? So a strain is the same thing as a tear, it's just a more minor tear. So if you have a strain, that means somewhere in there it's ripped, right? So the more you stretch, you could potentially rip it even more or have a complete tear, which a lot of times will result in surgery. So you definitely want to guard against that. So I would talk to your doctor. They'll tell you when, okay, it's been long enough, that should be healed. Now let's start doing some light stretching. I definitely wouldn't kick with a strained leg. It's only going to lead to more injury and longer time off. All right. Good luck, Caden. Sorry to hear that, buddy.
All right, Coach, unless you've got some other, rituals to throw out there, tips, reminders as Friday night is coming up, or if any of those of you out there got any last-minute questions, go ahead and send them in. If not, we can go ahead and shut down for the night, Coach.
Yeah, one thing I'll leave you in, your locker's your home, right? A lot of people have never been in a football locker room and really understand how important that space is for you. So you need to use that to your advantage. There needs to be, in that front door of that locker, there should be a checklist on there of stuff you need to go through when you're going to kick. All right, same thing when you're struggling. I know we got that question, what happens after you miss a kick? Go through your checklist. The first thing on there, right, is say, keep your head down. The next thing should be, wide plant. Third thing should be follow through high to your face with that foot. The fourth thing should be whatever it is that is on your checklist that you need to go through. It's something that you need to have all the time around you to remind you when things go bad or you're in a game situation and you're easily distracted by, the crowd and the field and you have to hurry up and do a kickoff, that you can have that checklist always in your brain that you can go through that will help clean everything up. So do not be afraid to decorate your locker with stuff that's inspirational, right? Bible verses that's really, really got nice. That's what I used to do with my locker. Checklist, maybe a picture of you hitting a game-winning field goal. Maybe watch yourself hit game-winning field goals if you have that before the game. Maybe watch an NFL guy and get your brain on the game before you go out and kick. We got another question?
Yeah, Wyatt_Sensen17 wants to throw in, what's the best way to get noticed by colleges? Tune in to last week's video.
Yeah, no. This right here, your phone, this is the best way to get noticed by colleges. You pick up the phone and say, hey TCU, hey Florida State, hey LSU, and you request the special team coordinator by his name. How do you find that out? You Google it. That's how you find everything out. You Google everything. All right? So go to the website, say you're looking for LSU. You look up the special teams coordinator. You look up the kicking coach. Then you look up the recruiting coordinator. So that when you pick up the phone and say, hey, LSU, is so-and-so there? No, he's not. What about, Tom McMahon? Is he there? No, he's not. Okay, what about Sam Nader, the recruiting coordinator? Okay, great. I'd love to speak with him. Sam Nader answers the phone. Hey, hello, who is this? Hey, my name is so-and-so. My name's Connor. I'm, a kicker at Trinity High School. And this, that, and the other. And here are my stats. Here are my grades. Great. That's fantastic. What did you need? I'm looking to set up a visit. Okay, fantastic. We could definitely set up an unofficial visit, but I need you to send me your information, your film, all that stuff so I can pass it on to coaches. I already did. It's in your inbox right now. It's also in the special teams coordinator's inbox and the head coach's inbox and the running backs coach's inbox. Send your film to everyone. All my information's in there. When is the best time that I can come for an unofficial visit? Well, we're actually having homecoming this weekend. Why don't you come, Thursday, you can sit in on a practice, and then you can watch Saturday's game. It's literally that simple. But if you're just sitting there waiting for your phone to ring, it's not going to happen. You're waiting for those emails to be responded to, it's not going to happen. There's 500 kickers sending their stuff to LSU. But if you are courageous enough to pick up a phone, which all old people say, all you guys always do is text and, snap face and stuff. Picking up the phone and calling a coach shows two things. One, that you're serious about going to their school, which is going to be on their checklist for people they want. Two, that you have courage enough to call them. What does every coach want in their kicker? A guy who's courageous, a guy who's not afraid to go and hit a game-winning field goal, right? And three, you're mature. You're grown up enough to realize that if you want something, you go out and get it. If you want something, you go out and get it. That is exactly what they're looking for in their kickers and punters and snappers. It's not going to happen to you. I cannot stress this to you enough, because by the time you guys realize it, it's going to be too late and you're going to end up missing out on college football. Or maybe you're ending up playing at a smaller school when you have potential to play at a bigger school. You never know. Even if you're not good enough to play at LSU, in your opinion, you might be, right? You have no idea what you're going to be in another year. You're going to redshirt, all right? You're going to have another year of being stronger, being fitter, kicking, getting ready for that season. So do not be afraid to call those big-time schools. Nick Saban, pick up the phone and call Nick Saban, right? It's going to probably be hard to find his number. I'd be a little scared to call Nick Saban. But anybody else, you shouldn't be afraid to call, all right? You just never know, man. I cannot tell you and stress to you how many times somebody says, yeah, we're losing a kicker because he flunked this last test and all of a sudden he's not going to be eligible for next year. Or, hey, man, I'm so glad you called me today. This is a sign from God. Our kicker just got arrested last night for a DUI and he's not eligible by the NCAA. You laugh, but these things happen. These things happen all the time and you never know when it's going to happen. So this right here is your best weapon. Call everyone, and you are going to get a lot of no's. That's the other thing you have to be prepared for. You're going to hear a lot of no's and say, sorry, we're not interested. Sorry, we just signed a guy. Sorry, we're not looking for any kickers this year. All right? You just say, thank you so much, LSU. Hang up. Hey, TCU. Hang up. Hey, Baylor. Hang up. Hey, Iowa. Hang up. Then once you go through the entire FBS, now you call the FCS. Hey, Nicholls State. Hang up. Hey, Sam Houston, hang up. Then you start calling D2 schools, then D3 schools, then NAIA. You call JUCOs. You find yourself. Every school needs a kicker and a punter, right? So there are positions out there, but you have to do the work because we already know kickers or coaches can care less about the specialists. You're the last one on the recruiting board. They're trying to find linebackers and running backs, all right? So you're the last one on their brains. I don't care. Make the phone call because it might remind them, oh yeah, we do need a kicker this year. All right. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. Again, if you missed this tonight's episode, it's going to be on our Instagram for another 24 hours. And then check out our YouTube page where we just created a channel, Trinity Kicking. It's got a ton of videos on there. We're going to have a ton of helpful videos on there, nutrition videos, every video you can imagine. And this video will be up there in the next couple of days. We look forward to seeing you and having you guys view it. And again, thank you so much for texting in your answers or texting in your questions. You keep asking, I'll keep answering. And eventually, we'd love for this phone to start ringing. So in the future, we're going to have you guys start calling in on the show. Thank you so much again for visiting us on Between the Uprights. Thank you again, Casey, for all your amazing work as always. Thank you for all our camera crew. Thank you guys. Have a wonderful, wonderful game tomorrow night. Best of luck to you. Be confident. You're going to go out and crush it. Good night, guys.
Big dog.